In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at arguably one of the weirdest and probably worst releases that Arcade1up has came out with, and that's from the giant joystick series that they made. In particular, I'm looking at the Pac-Man giant joystick, and I'm going to go over my thoughts on that. I've played it a little bit, and ultimately, I'm sure you're going to kind of know where this video is going, so watch this video and let me know what you think as well. So to start, the main reason I actually purchased this was on TSC. I think they were getting rid of these things for like 15 bucks a piece. So at very least, I figured I'd buy this and put it as a showpiece in my arcade, and that's pretty much all it's been up until this point. My kids, however, recently kept asking me what it actually does and what it is, and I decided, after many times of them asking me, I would actually set it up and give it a try. Now, to start off, one of the things I do like about it is I think it looks like a cool set piece in my arcade. I like that it has the big, massive joystick. It looks like a nice collectible, essentially. And the other thing I also like about this is the game selection is pretty good. So you have 10 games in total. You have some great games like Rolling Thunder, Galaga 88, and of course the Pac-Man games. As well, the setup is pretty straightforward. So you have this box right here, and it has a couple different USB ports. I think you can wire this together if you run out of batteries for the actual main joystick. But anyway, so you have that, you plug this into the HDMI, it gets also powered by a USB port itself, and then the unit itself was just a matter of turning it on after I put the batteries in and everything connected. So that setup was pretty simple and straightforward and easy as far as I was concerned. Now, that's pretty much all the positives I can say about this unit. The first thing that really annoyed me with this was I thought when I was initially looking at these when these first came out that there'd probably be some sort of vertical setting. So a lot of these games are designed for a vertical screen, not a horizontal screen. So I thought there'd be some sort of vertical setting so I could even turn one of my monitors vertical so you can play these games more comfortably and get a larger viewing image of that actual game that you're playing. Unfortunately, there's no game settings I could find at all on this unit. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I did look online as well at the time of making this, and I can't seem to find anything that would suggest you can do that. The second thing, and this is probably the biggest issue with this device, is these controls are absolutely awful. Now, I will say Pac-Man, if you're not a hardcore player, it can be played, but even with the little step panel, so it has a little kick out step panel for you to try to keep this more balanced, it keeps feeling like it's gonna fall over. It feels flimsy. It just doesn't feel ultimately like it's meant to be used for much. And what's worse is games like shooters, I believe this is a 4-way stick itself, not 8-way, at least from what I could do in my testing here, and ultimately I could not find this controllable at all, not to mention it's not comfortable at all to play. So even when I was trying to get serious into a game like Galaga, it feels like the joystick just isn't responsive enough, and it also feels like the shooting itself isn't responsive enough. It just ultimately does not work. And to make matters worse, the joystick itself feels flimsy. It feels like if you were to actually seriously try to use this unit, the joystick itself feels like it's probably going to break after an intense play session. So overall, for $15, this was a cool collectible. Beyond that, this thing is not at all, in my opinion, something I would recommend to anybody. I think that the controls don't control well. I don't think the way the games were designed around the controls control well, and the lack of a vertical screen to me just seems like a silly thing not to have built into something like this. So ultimately, this is probably one of the worst things I've ever used from Arcade1up, and I know that a lot of the community echoes the same thing when it comes to this device. So if you're ever in a position that this is something you're looking at buying as something to use for gaming, I would say steer clear entirely. Now, if you're putting it as a nice Pac-Man set piece in your arcade like me, then you might find that this has some value to what it is, especially at 15 bucks, and it might even be cheaper on some clearance racks.